Is your podcast a noisemaker or a trust builder? Today, we're going to run down 3 things that you should be taking into consideration if you want your podcast to actually build trust and not just add to all the noise out there. Let's dig in.
Your podcast should be your most powerful business development tool, a trust and authority builder, and your content creation engine. Let's help your podcast help your business with the StoryTrust.media podcast. Here's your host, John Gehring.
We've been conditioned to think that podcasting belongs only to the rich and famous. Oprah, Joe Rogan, Mel Robbins. But the reality is, those podcasts, you're not competing with them. They're competing with each other. They have reach, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they've built trust. And building trust on a micro level, that's what you want to do to help grow your business through your podcast. And at Story Trust Media, we measure the metric trust. Now, how do you measure trust? It's one of the harder things to measure. In fact, trust in a relationship can even be hard to measure. Do you feel like your spouse trusts you? Hopefully, yes, but we don't have any numbers for that, like we have for downloads, like we have for viewers. You see, reach and trust are 2 specific, different things to measure. Reach, you're going to have more specific numbers for, and that's what Mel Robbins has. She has a lot of reach. Does she have trust? Maybe, but that trust is separate from that reach. The reach might be some evidence of trust, but there are also a lot more reasons for reach that may have nothing to do with trust. So if you want to focus on trust, here's what you should be focusing on. Number 1, niche down. That's right. You want to make sure that your audience is a specific niche, not all business owners, not even all business owners, service providers. Think of 2 things, demographics and psychographics. Demographics are those more tangible statistics like this is where they live, this is how old they are, this is what industry they're in. Psychographics are psycho, like their mind, what they're thinking, what are their pain points, what position are they in business-wise. So assuming that I'm talking to you, a podcaster or a potential podcaster in the business space, you want your podcast to drive leads to your business, right? To help generate more clients and eventually revenue, more authority and thought leadership in your niche. That's great, but then you have to define what your niche is first. And business owners, it's too broad. It might be a bigger business problem for you that you're trying to reach too broad of an audience, but niching down is how you build trust. Point number 2, don't compare yourselves to the big name podcasters or the big content creators out there like Gary Vee. Comparison, they say, is the thief of joy. And in content creation, it's oftentimes the thief of progress. Because when we just compare ourselves to either the quantity of content that we want out or the audience size that we want to reach, we miss what actually matters. And what actually matters, I'm guessing for you, is for your podcast to be a trust driver for your brand and help you get more clients, create more authority, all those things that we're talking about. So you think, okay, the biggest podcasters, a lot of them have really long episodes, right? 2-hour-long episodes. That's what I need to be successful. Well, let's not confuse correlation with causation. Just because maybe a big podcaster has a 2-hour episode doesn't mean that 2-hour episode is what made them a big podcaster. It, in fact, more likely means that because they're such a big name, they're able to command an audience and keep an audience around for those 2 hours. So let's not get confused and try to mirror the big podcasters too much. Oh, they say this, they say that. This is their habit. Maybe I should take this on. Copying won't get you anywhere. In fact, if you try to copy a big podcast, all you're trying to do is compete with them. And I don't know about you, but I can't compete with Oprah. So number 2, stop the comparison game. Number 3 is measure the statistics that indicate trust. So downloads, like we talked about earlier, they indicate reach. And they could be a product of trust, but they could be a product of a lot of other things too. So do you want to be measuring downloads? Sure, but the more important statistics to measure include retention, include what we call time spent listening or TSL from my radio background. They also can include whether or not somebody who comes to your podcast for the first time comes back to your podcast for the second time. And then, of course, maybe the most important one is who actually is checking out your podcast. Is it the type of person that you're aiming for? Are you reaching the niche that you're setting out to reach? Because if you're reaching people who are outside of your niche, that might add vanity numbers to your download total. But what does that actually do for you? Unless you're trying to get monetized, and that takes a lot, it's really important to niche down and to be constantly tracking. Is this working? Am I actually reaching the niche I'm trying to reach? So again, just to review those 3 things to consider when you're trying to build trust with your podcast and not just reach. Number 1, the power of niching down. When in doubt, get more specific. Number 2, stop the comparison game with the big podcasts. What they do doesn't necessarily have to mean that you have to do it. And number 3, measure the statistics that matter. You might have 100 listeners or viewers for a long time and never increase in that number. But if your 100 are staying for longer, if your 100 are part of the group that you're trying to reach, your podcast can actually be seeing some incredible results and incredible growth despite that baseline number never growing. So those 3 things I want you to consider, and I'll leave you with this thought. The power of a small show for building trust. You have an advantage that actually those big shows don't have. And I'm not just telling you this to get you fired up or to make you think you're special or anything. I'm telling you this because it's true. You have the opportunity to reach out to those in your audience one-to-one, to reply to their comments on social media, not have some brand manager do it, to receive real-time feedback and actually be able to implement that feedback. Big podcasters, they have too large of audiences. They can't possibly field all the feedback and build relationships with everybody one-to-one. As a smaller podcaster, you can. And that's part of the power of building a content creation engine with your podcast.
Thanks for checking out the Story Trust Media podcast. Learn more about what Story Trust Media can do for your business and book a free consultation at storytrust.media.